Okay, in this second video we are going to focus on the size of the facial features. We have already spent some time talking about the location of the facial features, and so now we're going to talk about how big they should be, and there's just a couple of little tips and tricks to getting those things where they need to be. As I mentioned over here, these are our notes about where, and then over here we're going to talk about how big. So when it comes to hair, you might think, what in the world do you mean how big? Well, I really mean how much space does the hair take up and how far does it kind of encroach upon the face itself. A couple of things. One, it depends on the hairstyle as to whether or not we're going to cross this hairline. This is that place where the hair begins and the forehead begins, but if a person has bangs or if they have their hair parted and combed to one side, that could affect it. Even the shape of their hairline could determine how much is forehead and how much is hair. Some people comes down here into a widow's peak, and other people have it trimmed neatly, but the hair comes around the face more than I think most people realize. If we think about, I'm just going to just kind of do a simple part here. Let's imagine that the hair is going to come down. Even if we're kind of pushing it away from our face, it comes down near the eyes and near the ears. So it actually takes up quite a bit of space within this area here. It's curved, and sometimes it kind of zigzags back and forth, but it's going to take up room around that face. Why is that important? Well, if we don't get the hairline right, it's never going to look like a person. If we draw a line straight across or boxy, it just doesn't work. And getting that shape right is really important if you're trying to draw a specific person to making it actually look like them. So we want to just make sure that we pay attention to that and we let the hair take up the entire quarter in terms of that top space, and also we want it to curve down around the ears. Okay. Where are the ears, by the way? They're down into this quarter here, and everybody has some hair in front of their ears. That's why I've brought it all the way down to the middle of that third quarter. Quarter two is where we're going to talk about the eyes, and this is where it's kind of cool because, believe it or not, your head is approximately 5 eyes wide. Well, what does that mean? Well, the width of a single eye is approximately the same as the space between them. Of course, there's room for another eye, and the space on either side is also approximately the width of one eye. So that gives us a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces. What do we do with that information? Well, if you're drawing a large head, you measure the width and divide by 5. If you're drawing a small head, same thing. My drawing here is 5 inches wide. That makes it super easy for me. I just made all of those spaces 1 inch across. But you can use this same technique regardless of what scale you're drawing, as long as you know the width of your head, or even if you had to estimate to divide that space evenly into 5 equal parts. So make sure that you write that down so you don't forget. There is room for 5 eyes across. So that's going to get our spacing right. Of course, it's not enough to just get the width of the eyes right if the space in between them isn't right, if it's not right with everything else. So we're actually going to use that eye as a sort of a measuring tool. What do I mean by that? Well, the next feature that we're going to talk about is the nose. Guess how wide the nose is? Approximately the width of one eye, which is also equal to that space between the eyes. So that, of course, takes place in the third quarter. We can say that one eye wide, or the space between the eyes. And that's kind of helpful because if we think about it, the widest part of the nose is going to be approximately the same as that space right there. And that kind of makes it easy for us. Okay. Next up, we're going to talk about what's happening here in the fourth quarter, which of course is the mouth. And this is another area where people tend to way underestimate. Put these little tiny mouths on people, when in actuality, your mouth is a pretty substantial part of your face. In fact, it's approximately 2 eyes wide. 2 eyes wide. So, how do we come up with that? How do we look for that? Well, we want to make sure we add this to our notes, and then I'll show you. We're going to go 2 eyes wide, or this is the little trick I want to teach you. Line up the corners with the pupils. What are the pupils? The pupils, of course, are the center of the eye. So I haven't drawn my eyes yet, but I know that they're going to be towards the center of that space there. So then if I use that line, I come straight down from that spot. That's going to be the widest part of my mouth. And remember that the mouth rests on that line right there on our mouth shelf. It takes place in this space right here. And in this particular video, I'm not going to get too much into the how-to, just want to get it in the right spot and the right size. So where did we come up with 2 eyes wide? Well, here's 1, here's a half, and here's a half. And that is equal to 2. And if you're not convinced, look in the mirror. Take a look. Kind of draw an imaginary line straight down from your pupils if you're looking straight ahead. And you should find the very corners of your mouth. So I hope that this is helpful, and I hope that you can use these tools to help you improve the realism in your drawings.